everyone, my name is Jessica. I am going to share with you my sewing journey as a beginner, in which I started a year ago. Excuse the crying in the background, it's my German Shepherd puppy who doesn't like to be separated from me. Anyways, so I started sewing a year ago and I came across a lot of challenges in which I had to figure out on my own, and I thought these videos would be really useful for someone that's just beginning to sew and doesn't really have the skills that are out there that you learn, but you learn on your own, if that makes sense. Also, one of the challenges I came across was I'm left-handed, and well, there's no sewing machine that accommodates a left-handed person, and I also learned on an industrial sewing machine, so that was a challenge in itself. So I'm going to teach you what I learned and what I came across which helped me become the sewer I am today. And I've actually started my own little business where I sell my homeware products in my shop. So I'm sure that you can learn something from me, and of course I can learn something from you guys if you have any comments or feedback regarding this video. So what I'm going to start with today is just the basic tools I use for sewing and how to be as cost effective as possible when you are starting out, because you often find that people tell you to buy this and that, and you actually end up wasting so much money, where you can actually use that money to rather buy fabric and throw into your business, say if you're wanting to start a business from this. Also, during the lockdown, if you've discovered a sewing machine in your cupboard that your grandmother had, or your mother had, or your dad, or your grandfather, and you're pulling it out and thinking, oh, let me make some masks or some little projects, well, this is the perfect video for you, because I have stuff that you can find around your house and you can just begin sewing like that. So I'm going to go through all the little things that I keep on hand and that help me make the most incredible projects just from the most simple things. So one of the videos I will do is explaining how to set up an industrial sewing machine, if you do have an industrial sewing machine, because those are quite hard to come across. But I use a domestic machine for basically all my projects. My domestic machine is amazing because I can do anything with it. And the speed control is so important when you're starting out. Being a left-handed person, you cannot control everything with your right hand. Speed control is very important. And also for beginner sewing, you can't always sew straight, control your fabric. It becomes a little bit challenging. So I use an Alner Experience 580, which I bought a few months ago. And the great thing about my machine is that it has a lot of different stitches, and it literally can sew mainly everything, including soft leather. You don't need a fancy machine to start with, simple domestic, but just make sure that the domestic you do purchase has at least 4 or 5 different stitches, the most important being a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch. The zigzag stitch is great for if you're wanting to go and sew lingerie, or if you want to do swimwear, or if you want to do something with a little bit of a pattern on your project that you're doing. A zigzag stitch can also look really nice, and it's quite a nice strong stitch. The industrial sewing machine unfortunately only has a straight stitch, so the domestic I would purchase first before my industrial machine. I use this one, but like I said, I use this for a business, so it's one of the more advanced domestic machines, but you can obviously play around with your budget and see where that takes you and get a domestic machine from. Anyway, the Alner is a really good brand as well, because it's, if you're based in South Africa, which I am, then the Alner gives amazing service and training when you do buy your machines, and they do have a lot of options. But like I said, it's up to you, it's up to what you've read. Do a bit of research before you buy a machine and get some reviews before you just go and spend money. That's great. Another thing that I also use for all my projects is an overlocker. I have an Alner overlocker, which I fortunately inherited from my mother-in-law, but you can get really cost-effective and really good overlocker machines from anywhere. Just make sure that it does your hems and a full thread, because that is basically what I use it for. I use my overlocker for basically all my projects. I don't know where I would be without it, But this is the next step in your sewing journey. Learn how to sew first and then invest in an overlocker. The overlocker I use for my inners of my cushion covers, as well as if I see that a fabric's going to fray, I like to first overlock the edges and then sew. It just creates a nice neat finish, and then I feel that I am selling a product that is of a high standard. So let's get into the tools I use so that you can begin the fun journey of sewing. So first thing first, I use obviously a left-handed pair of fabric scissors. This I would spend money on. Your fabric scissors are the most important tool, and it's going to make and finish your projects really effectively. It will also make your cutting much more effective, fast, you won't waste time. A good fit pair of fabric scissors is so essential for your sewing journey. These are the right-handed pair, which you can get anywhere. It is quite challenging finding a left-handed pair of fabric scissors. I got mine from Arthur Bales here in Johannesburg. You can look for them at the normal fabric shops like Shamdor or Fiona's, but you can also purchase them online, but you might have to do a bit of research to find a good pair of left-handed fabric scissors. And please do not use your scissors for anything but fabric. It does break them, and it's such a waste of money if you just break your beautiful scissors. So rather just use a normal pair of scissors to cut paper, anything else. Don't use your fabric scissors. Then with regards to your needles, you should get a set of needles that come with your sewing machine, but I've purchased extra because that is tend to sometimes break them. They come in different sizes. Here in this one, I use this Schmetz brand, which I got with my Alna machine, and I buy at the Alna shop. It comes in a 70, 80 and 90. The bigger the size, the more it is used for your thicker fabrics. The smaller size, like a 70, is usually your thinner fabrics. And then I use an 80 for all my standard sewing. So that if you can just get maybe a pack of 80 to start, that is great, because that's for your everyday fabrics. But obviously the thicker you go, the thicker your needle needs to be, and this one then won't damage your machine and it won't break. Then I also have a set of leather needles. Leather needles are used obviously for sewing leather, and these are really important because then also for going through a domestic machine, they're specifically made for leather usage. One thing that I've used a lot is my chalk pencil. These are great for any color fabrics, and then I use this marker for if my fabrics are have a little bit of a pattern on it and you can't really see the chalk, like a check or anything with a little bit of a square on. These are great because they just wash out and it won't leave ugly marks on your fabric that you're using. Then the other thing that I discovered the other day is a point turner. You can get these from any haberdashery shop. So I call it a corner turner, but it's the professional name if you're wanting to purchase is a point turner. These are great for, like, for example, with my cushion covers. When I sew them and I finish off my project, I like to push out the corners just to make it look beautiful and neat and create a really nice finish. You can use them for anything, to turn out your corners when you're making it zip purses. This is a really handy tool. Another thing, which is my best friend, is a picker. This you're going to need, and you should name it because you're going to use it all the time. This is really great for when you make any silly mistakes, sew the wrong way, just use this picker to undo it and start again. Tweezers. The tweezers are really nice because sometimes, like, if your fabric gets stuck in your machine, this is great to get out any knots or nests, and also great for threading your overlocker, as well as pulling out any ugly threads that get stuck down at the bottom when cleaning out your machine. A little screwdriver. My screwdriver came with my machine. Most of them should come with a little screwdriver. Use this when you're taking everything out and cleaning out your machine. It's also great if thread does get stuck and you have to undo the whole machine and kind of fix everything up. So you need one of these. Then I use different sewing feet. Please don't go and buy random sewing foot because they are expensive, and unless you really need it, don't go buy it because they are expensive. So the ones that I use and I would recommend that you do have for all the projects, the simple projects you're going to do at home. So your machine will come with just a normal straight foot, which you can use for everything. But then if you want to do an invisible zip, you have your special invisible zip foot. So this I use for my cushion covers that have an invisible zip. Please don't go buy this unless you need to. It is expensive. Just your normal zipper foot. This should come with your machine, but this is for your basic zips. My top stitch foot. This is really nice because what it does is it creates a beautiful top stitch on your projects, creating a neat line that you will get really straight, and it just makes a beautiful finish on your projects. And then I have a roller foot for leather. This is great because it doesn't damage or scratch your leather. It just literally slides through the leather as you're sewing it. Next thing you need is pins. Pins for pinning all your fabrics down before you're sewing so nothing shifts. I have it on a nifty little magnetic holder. Whenever I drop pins on the floor, I can literally just pick them up with this. Thread. So I use the Ceralon threads. This you can get at any fabric store. And the reason why I use this thread is because it's really cost effective. It comes in beautiful colors and it lasts really long. And I find the quality is really good as well. I would highly recommend purchasing this brand because the other brands can be quite expensive, and this also has such a nice selection of colors you can choose one for all your different projects. I have a lot of bobbins. The reason being is that every time I use a new thread, I don't want to waste by pulling it out, throwing away this thread and rethreading with another color. So I have a bobbin for each color that I use. They're not very expensive, the bobbins, and you can get them in packs of like 6, and they go a long way. So rather get more bobbins than wasting your thread. A brush. This came with my machine, but if you don't have one, you can use a simple little paintbrush, a thin one. This is to clean out your machine. I would highly recommend getting one of these because you want to look after your machine. It's a lifelong investment, and the more you spend time cleaning it out after usage of 8 hours, the longer your machine will last, and it won't damage the inside of the machine much. Just taking really good care, brushing out all those threads when you're sewing. I use these clips. These clips I got from P&A. This is great for if you're sewing zipper purses. It holds the 2 fabrics layers together nicely. But of course you can just use pins. It's not essential this. It's just a nifty little thing to have on the side when you're sewing. My oil. The oil I got with my industrial machine, but you can purchase them from any of the fabric shops. This I use obviously when I clean my machine. I oil it every 8 hours. It came in this big bottle, so I literally took a soap dispenser that I had, I removed the lid and placed the lid on here. The reason being is you literally need a millimeter of oil. You don't want the oil going everywhere because it takes a long time to absorb, and then it goes all over your fabric and it makes a huge ginormous mess. So, trick, put this on, you don't make a mess, you squirt a little bit in the machine, and it saves a lot of trouble with oil going everywhere. A lint roller. A lint roller is great. I use a lint roller whenever I finish a project and I'm about to put it in my shop. It creates a neat finish, removes all those ugly threads that have come on when you're sewing, and then my project's great for selling. It looks neat and professional. And then a ruler. I use this ruler for everything because it's great for when you're doing squares, but you can just use a simple ruler. You'll need a ruler when you're tracing out patterns. I also have a really nice mat which I use for pattern making. Not essential right now, but it's great also if you're using a knife to cut out thicker fabrics, all of that, and it has all the dimensions on it, so you don't have to use a small ruler. So this is also really great. You can get that also from like a haberdashery shop, or from a P&A, or even like an art shop. And then last but not least, sharpener. just to sharpen your chalk pencil so you have those neat lines always and that your chalk doesn't fade. Yeah, and I think that's everything for now. My next video we're going to start the lovely journey of sewing, the different challenges that we come across and that you can resolve easy without stress, and creating a journey that you actually love sewing rather than it becoming a stressful experience. And just one more thing before I finish off. Don't go and buy expensive fabric to start. You want to have fabric that you can dispose of easily without wasting money. And the thing that I used when I started sewing is I used calico. The calico you can get from anywhere and it's really cost effective, and it comes in a white or cream, and you can just chuck it in the bin. If you're just learning to sew a corner or sew straight or do a simple zip, calico is really great for that because you can literally chuck it in the bin and don't feel like you're throwing away money. Yes, and please feel free to add any comments or opinions about this video. This is my first video that I'm ever doing, so please bear with me. I'm sure the next one will be better. And like I said, I really wanted to share my sewing journey with those who are beginning and those who are struggling with the simple things that are actually simple, but that are you find really challenging and you feel like you're alone, but you can overcome them and create a really fun, exciting path for your fashion or your homeware brand that you want to create for yourself, or even just nifty little things to do at home. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.